Hey guys, it's Jeff DeVerter, and in just 30 seconds, we are going to get into another Solve Live, all the usual things you'd expect, plus deconstructing the AWS outage last week. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever, whenever I found you. Hey, everybody, my name, as you know, because you're here, is Jeff DeVerter, and I am the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace Technology, getting all the buttons working this morning on a Tuesday. Hey, so glad that you have chosen to spend a few minutes with me here this morning. I'm really glad that you're here. Hey, in fact, since you're here, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself down in the comments below, just like the little lower third says you should do. Tell me who you are, where you are, morning, afternoon, what are you doing? Are you having a great day? That's what I'd like to know. Hey, we had our first introducer. Hey, glad that you are here. Thanks so much for that. And folks, it's going to be an amazing time here again this morning. No guest today. You're stuck with just me. We're going to get in just a little bit and deconstruct a little bit what happened last week with that AWS outage. It was really interesting. Now that they've gotten the postmortem from them, and I think that you're going to be interested to hear. Hey, hola, amigo, from San Antonio to you in Mexico. Glad that you are here. We got India here. We got New Jersey here. We've got, Daniel is unable to view anything. I'm not sure what's going on with Daniel today. And Houston, I got paroled from Houston a few years ago. That means I was in jail. I just got to move to San Antonio. Spokane, Washington. Hey, fantastic. I'm glad you're here. You're the first person from Spokane who's ever been on. And, Puebla, Mexico. We've got a great turnout from the U.S. today. Hey, guys, if you ever want to get a hold of us over here at Solve Live, hey, you can reach us very simply. Of course, you can get me anytime on LinkedIn. If we're not already buddies, go ahead and find me. It's just Jay DeVerter. My name's Jeff DeVerter, as I announced before. So my username, Jay DeVerter. But I'd love to be friends. Come find me there. Let's connect. Always posting something of somewhat interesting stature. Hey, we got Kelly from San Antonio. Hey, let's go get a taco sometime. Hey, so send me an email at solve@rackspace.com. Hey, Racker from Munich. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, welcome. Is it snowing there? That's the kind of things I like to know. Got people from India, got people from all over the place. My gosh, there's a lot of folks here today. I'm so glad you're here. So send me an email, solve@rackspace.com. Do you have any input for us? Do you have a topic you think we should dig into a little deeper? That's what that solve@rackspace.com is all about. Hey, Ray from Cambridge, glad you're here. Is it cold up there? We're in a bit of a warm snap right now. It's going to be in the upper 70s, I think, today, but cold front coming in over the weekend. All right, my friends, this is a usual way we run our program over here. So first, it's This Week in Cloud. And what we talk about here is, how is the cloud making the news? And why is it important to you? So let's dig into that, shall we? All right, so it will start with, bingo, an announcement from... come on, buttons. There we go. An announcement from Adobe yesterday. Now, this announcement is all over my news feed, and they have announced what they call Creative Cloud Express. Now, if you are familiar with Adobe Creative Cloud, you know that it is a relatively high dollar on a monthly basis perspective. You can't really buy anything anymore outright. You got to pay a fee. Thing for creative professionals. You get your Photoshop and all of the other, heavy lifting apps from Adobe. But they came out yesterday with Adobe Creative Cloud Express, both a web app as well as a mobile app. And it is clearly a shot across what the folks over at Canva are up to. It'll be interesting. I haven't actually run it yet, but it will be interesting to see where it fits in a competitive standpoint or feature by feature standpoint against what the folks at Canva are doing. And I am a huge Canva proponent because what does it ultimately help you do? It helps you tell stories. And regardless of your profession, regardless of what you're up to, that's how we communicate as a human species. So learn how to tell your story, learn how to tell it graphically. Now, let's move on into our next story. Folks, it goes back to another ransomware issue. There was an announcement that UKG, or Ultimate Kronos Group, they have an HR management app in their private cloud that they manage, that they provide this out as a SaaS offering, taken over by ransomware. Folks, just stop right now and check all your devices. Make sure they're patched. I don't know what the root cause was here. I don't know if they've announced that yet. But the moral of the story here, people, is that ultimately these things, 80% is the number that we hear. 80% of ransomware issues come from the basic blocking and tackling that's not happening in our environments. Again, I don't know the exact situation behind this, but we just use this as a placeholder to remind you, hey, go open up your phone, go into your computer, see if you have the latest updates. Because what a lot of these hacks come from are these vulnerabilities that get exposed, that get found in, we call them, 0-day announcements, and it's the stuff that's not found yet that gets exploited out on the internet. And then once they're announced, off we go to the races with another one. So these guys fell victim. Now, this didn't include their private cloud offering that they would give to customers to run on premises, because that's a separate environment. This is just the one that they ran in their own environment and made available out to the world as a SaaS-based offering. Asma, thank you so much for joining. We're glad that you are here. You guys have gotten quiet. Here's a question for you. Just make a comment in wherever you're watching here. How many of your organizations, what do you feel? Do you feel that they're up to the task of what's happening on the cybersecurity realm? That they're doing all of the things that they need to do? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean all of the advanced zero trust and everything that entails, but blocking and tackling, folks. Are we up to the task? Are your organizations up to the task? Hey, you're not supposed to see it like that. That's my fancy green screen. All right. Well, let's move on. We have moved on from This Week in Cloud, what is happening in the cloud and why it's important to you, to, hey, cloud releases. There are so many cloud releases that happen literally on a daily basis from the major cloud providers. So I handpick a few that come out from AWS, Azure, and Google, and tell you about them here and why they're important and how they can be impacting your organization. So let's start with our friends at AWS. Now, Amazon has Lookout for Vision. It now supports visual inspection of product defects at the edge. Do you understand how amazing that is? So look what's happening here, guys. So AWS comes out, with this EC2 back in the early days. We got compute, grab us some compute and build whatever you want. But over the years, all of the providers are adding more and more capability. Ultimately, along comes some AI and machine learning model capabilities that happen inside of AWS, and that's great. But a continued refinement of the capabilities that exist out in the hyperscale clouds to make cloud adoption not even easier, but more impactful. So look what's happening here. AWS now has a service that with the right cameras, and if you remember about a month ago, they've made it even easier now to use more and more off-the-shelf cameras to connect in and be able to flag and show defects on product development in the manufacturing at the edge. So not even inside of a proper AWS data center, but at the edge inside of their manufacturing plant. I think that's pretty incredible. So that is Amazon Lookout for Vision. So also from AWS is the FinSpace. Now their product FinSpace now provides quick setup with pre-configured data catalog, sample data, and improved data loading. So again, the moral of the story, in fact, I think you're going to see this as a trend as we go through all of the announcements from the three clouds, is refinement, refinement, refinement. Greater granularity of capabilities, greater narrowing focus in market spaces, like specifically here for their Amazon FinSpace. It now makes it even easier to start analyzing data with newly included financial services sample data, sample configs, and taxonomy, metadata, and capabilities. Guys, this is specific to the external data exchanges, U.S. Department of Treasury, AgloSeek, and even capital markets. So if you are in the fin space, Amazon making it even easier. Hey, Sidig from San Antonio. That's two of us, three of us now from San Antonio. Glad that you are here. I think we need to have a meetup. What do you guys say? Who wants to go get a taco or maybe even a beer? Who knows? All right. So refinement. So not just that Amazon has a cloud, not just that Amazon has a cloud that works great in different sectors, not just that Amazon has an offering in the financial sector, but now specific sample data landing spaces, not just for financial services, but even in very granular areas. So that's pretty awesome. All right, let's move over to Azure. Now, Azure Secure Access has a couple of different updates. Secure access to storage account from virtual network subnet in any region is now in public preview. Hey, Gerardo, Cisa, I would hope your company's up to the task. Isn't that sort of your job or part of your job? Fantastic. Glad to hear you're doing the Lord's work over there. All right, so back to Azure and their storage update. So secure access to storage account, guys, from virtual network or subnet in any region is now in public preview. I remember the days when storage accounts were limited to specific subscriptions inside of your Azure environment, and they couldn't span regions, they couldn't span anything. So this is pretty huge. Also, that's just the first update. Also, Azure Secure Storage now has attribute-based access control conditions with principal attributes now in public preview. We all know RBAC or role-based. Now we have attribute-based access control, giving greater granularity or flexibility to your application development in access controls for your applications as they connect to your data. All right, I think that, and then also, this is also refinement, right? That's our message today, is general availability for Azure Communication Services interoperability with Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams, no secret that Microsoft's goal is that Teams is the face of Microsoft. It is the face of the, first of all, just of the, hey, Philip's here. Glad to see you, Philip. It is the face of all things from a SharePoint point of view, all things communication inside of the Office suite. You can get your email in there. You can put your calendar in there. You can do all of it. But more and more apps are surfacing inside of Teams. I remember when one of the first big bits that showed up there was all of your, you could write your own applications to expose data. And so you could have Teams be that one-stop shop for your analytics data coming out of Microsoft Analytics. But now, if you have a custom application that utilizes Azure Communication Services, well, those are going to be able to be surfaced directly inside of Teams. Now, this is in public preview, so look, oh no, general availability, never mind, rock and roll. Get to writing, get to exposing your apps inside of Teams, folks. All right, hey, let's move over to Google. Managed Anthos Service Mesh now supports VPC service controls as a preview feature in the Rapid channel. So again, this is refinement of what's happening over on Anthos. Anthos, of course, is GCP's ability to take GCP on the road or anywhere you want it. And now you can put managed Anthos Service Mesh supporting, of course, the VPC service controls, which is fantastic. And also is Cloud SQL for SQL Server. This new feature enables more flexibility for integrated Cloud SQL for SQL Server with managed services for Active Directory. So again, making it easier to run your SQL workloads and connect those through Active Directory inside of your Google environment, which is always nifty. Refinement. That is the message of all the updates I think we've seen today, is the ability to do more, expose more through your own programmatic genius, thinking of the communication services inside of Teams, or the cloud, making it easier to do more with your specific workloads. I'm thinking about the FinServe offering over on the Amazon side. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, I think that's all the updates for today, and that takes us over into our cloud discussion, folks. This is a time when I'm just going to spend a little bit of time with you here, and what I wanted to do was, first of all, turn that off, to was to take you through a little bit about what happened last week with AWS's service outage, because it's super interesting. It's interesting on a couple of different layers. So let's start with a general description of how these cloud services work. And it's not unique to AWS. So we all know our AWS control panel. I mean, in this case, it could also be Azure, it could be GCP. And then we have our accounts, and inside of our accounts, or subscriptions, accounts, then subscriptions goes our workloads, and in our workloads go. But there's another layer of things behind the scenes. And in that other layer is where your cloud provider, in this case, we're now going to go back to talking specifically about AWS, where those services that we consume for our applications, we call it the control plane. That's where all of I'll call it the magic or the behind the scenes things happen. So a couple of different services that live there. Let me walk you through. So first of all, there's what's called network address translation. Now, you may be familiar with that because we use it on our home routers. You know, your cable provider or DSL or fiber. I don't know who you use. DSL. Welcome to 2005. Takes your public IP, heads to your wireless router. That wireless router then gives you a 192 or a 10.something address, non-routable address. And it's a place that's safe. It's non-routable. It's not going to get it outside of it. But you do have to convert those public IP addresses or whatever IP address scheme you have in your AWS account to the backnet, that service net. That's called network address translation. Also, a way to make that happen is oftentimes we refer to these services through a DNS name. Dial-up, that's right, Philip. Who remembers that? I used to use bonded dial-up. Can you believe that? Two lines. My wife hated it when I used both the data line and the home line to go play Quake with my friends. Dating myself. All right, so what was I telling you about? DNS. We all know what DNS does. It takes our friendly names, mail.google.com, and converts it into a series of IP addresses. So there's DNS. So what happened was, and I'm going to pull up my notes because there was a few very key lines that I do want to refer to that was in the postmortem from AWS. Sorry, I got to bring things over to the right screen here. All right. So first of all, starting at about 7:30 last Tuesday, a week ago today, right about the time. Well, no, we started. That's Pacific time. So. They had, of course, the issue impacted US East 1 and a few little companies like Disney Plus or Venmo or Robinhood were impacted. Anybody using, their ticket control. I mean, there were just so many things. Now, well, here's what Amazon said. According to Amazon, there was a glitch in the internal network that hosts foundational services, such as application service monitoring. It's going to be important later. Don't forget monitoring. Their internal DNS, as well as the EC2 control plane and network address translation. Hey, Racker from India, glad you're here. Please come anytime. You're always welcome. So AWS's internal network, it's the bit that underpins all the AWS network that most customers connect to. And of course, you've got this network address translation that handles the communications between those two networks. And when the thing that's kind of really cool about this, as I dug into it, is that service net is tied to, in a very creative way, the public net that we use and know as AWS. So as we build services that expand and contract based on demand, you know what else expands and contracts? That service network expands and contracts. And the individual services that support that, like network address translation. But that glitch impacted directly network address translation. So as a demand came in on the public side Tuesday morning. I don't know why so many people were watching Disney Plus or sending money around on Venmo, but they were, and it caused an expansion of the network on the public side. But what didn't happen was an expansion of the network on the private side. So what happened was it just got overrun ultimately. So as it started to get overrun, it created latency in those requests. That latency turned into timeouts. Those timeouts turned into re-requests of that service, because we build applications to, if it fails, hey, try again a couple of 300,000-400,000 times. And so ultimately what happened is you had the front side network creating effectively a denial of a service attack, a denial of service attack against the internal network. Now, it wasn't an attack, but it functioned in the same way. It overran that service so that it created more and more latency. That additional latency created more timeouts. Those timeouts created failed connections, and ultimately a complete log jam. Think about traffic at 5 p.m. wherever you live, if you live in a populated area. And that's ultimately what happened. So it created, the snowball effect that brought the network to a standstill. Now, when that network reached a standstill, nothing was getting between it, and it created certain services then that really couldn't function. You know what one of those certain services was? It was the application. It was the network monitoring service, and that's the service that Amazon internal attacks use to monitor what's going on in the backnet or the service network. So when that network went to a crawl and then ultimately halted because of the effectively the denial of service attack, the Amazon engineers lost visibility into what was actually going on. So they were relegated, since they couldn't get in and they couldn't see what was going on. They had to go back to all of the networking logs that were there from before the breakdown to look at, as that earthquake began to occur, what was going on. And they used that to decode what had happened. So then they got in and they started to peel some parts apart. They realized DNS was actually a big part of the culprit. They redirected DNS to somewhere else. And so that started to free that up. But inevitably, all of those customers, it didn't fix the problem. It didn't unlock the NAT device congestion, and so the issues continued to impact customers. Now let's see. I'm looking at my notes to make sure I cover it all. So other services that were impacted, Amazon RDS, or the relational database service, was impacted. Well, it wasn't directly impacted. If you had an app and it used it, it could just use it, unless you were connecting to it via the API. The API piece was impacted, not only for RDS, but it was, there was another feature that was impacted there. Route 53, the exact same problem. As well as their enterprise load balancers, or their cloud balancers, they call them. And so they were impacted, not directly, but only when connecting through the API. So the API layer was impacted. Route 53 was impacted. There were login failures across the AWS console. There was latency affecting the Amazon secure token services for third-party identity services. There was delays in CloudWatch. There was impaired access to the S3 buckets, DynamoDB that enables VPC endpoints, and then problems invoking serverless Lambda functions. Serverless Lambda functions. That's that whole serverless thing that we keep saying you need to go do. So it can be impacted. So on and on it went. Ultimately, they unjam the log jam. Services start to flow again. Here's the last piece I wanted to talk about with this before we get into lessons learned, and that was the fact that the service ticketing system that they use was impacted as well. They couldn't get to the service ticketing environment. So those services that were throwing tickets saying, "Hey, I have an issue, and here's what the problem is," techs couldn't even see those tickets because they couldn't get to that system. I understand that it was as far-reaching as Amazon drivers effectively going home because they couldn't get into the system that manages that. People couldn't get into Amazon buildings. I mean, this was pretty far-reaching. All right, so they fixed it. They're, if you saw my message out on LinkedIn, or I was going to say earlier this week. It was yesterday, which effectively is earlier this week. It says that this is one of those unexpected things they didn't plan for, and that's, at least it was an unexpected thing. But should it have been unexpected? Is the question. Now, I would encourage everyone. There are write-ups about this all over the internet. Get your technical people to look at the technical specifics of what happened there. Because as I was talking to even some of our AWS like senior level engineers, and where we had customers who were impacted. Guys, we had architected these customers for resiliency, for data resiliency, application resiliency. Everything was there. But when the service layer goes down, there's not much you can do. So it creates a new level of what does it take to create a resilient application. And it also brings to bear the larger thought, and that is, how much do we trust to a single vendor, to a single provider? Now, I'm not advocating not trusting or trusting implicitly. What I'm saying is this is a thing that we all need to consider. If we can think about electrical issues. We here in Texas are very prone to that after the issues we had last February, where the grid, literally we were 4 seconds from losing the Texas grid, which would have taken months, if not years, to recover. Apparently, that's a big thing to turn the thing back on. But when you think about a single service provider that holds the keys to your ability to be successful, how do you create a solution that works around that? How do you create a recovery system for that? If you have a copy of your data, how long is it going to take you to get that data into an operational state? Granted, having a copy of your data is a fantastic thing, but how do you get back to a transactional state where you are interacting with customers, buying and selling and servicing your customer base? These are things that we need to think about all the more. Now, we've always thought about disaster recovery in our world here as technology professionals, but more and more as those workloads run in a single location that isn't our own data center. How do we solve for that? I don't have an answer today, and I won't have an answer tomorrow, because this is an evolving environment. Our environments that we can run our compute in are ever evolving. If you're a service provider, or you are have software or hardware that you provide to customers, these are great features to think about how you're going to include that into that service offering. I would highly, highly recommend that. So this is a tale of a story. We were talking before we got started here. As I told Daniel, producer, I said, Daniel, I want a subtitle on this one that says, "The cloud is dead, long live the cloud." And he's young and he didn't understand that, and I had to explain it, but that's okay. It goes back to that whole phrase of "the king is dead, long live the king." In other words, this king is dead and the new one's here, and we hope he lives a good long time. But you know what? The cloud is dead, and the cloud of yesterday should be dead to us. But long live the cloud, because the cloud is an enabler of so much innovation and so much capability. But we have to look at it through new eyes. We have to look at it through the lens of how are we going to utilize this amazing resource in a way that empowers our organization, but doesn't become a weight around our neck or around our ankles that we are beholden to. So whether that is how we do business with them, or if they have issues, we can't allow them to take us down in the process. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed our little time here today. I know I certainly have. And I'm going to be back here on Thursday. And on Thursday, I have the great pleasure of having my guest Joe Steiner join us. And Joe is he is a CTO over at Dell Technologies, and he was recently on a Cloud Talk podcast. That Cloud Talk podcast will be going live on Thursday about the time that we're here, and we're talking about all things data. He's the VP and CTO over unstructured data. So I hope that you will be here. Everyone, again, my name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist. And we have one more call out for tacos. For tacos in Santa Data Point Taqueria off I-10 at Medical is the place. Ooh, back in the day when Rackspace had our offices over there, that'd be great. Maybe we can all meet up over there if you're in San Antonio. If you're in San Antonio, you want to meet up for tacos, comment down below. In fact, I may even put a sign-up sheet on Thursday. Hey guys, we have one more live stream coming on Thursday at 8:30 Central before we close it down for the rest of this year. And I hope that you'll be here. I hope if you enjoy this, you'll tell your friends about it and say, hey, join the party at 8:30 as we talk here on Solve Live about all things technology and why it's important to you. So folks, have an amazing day. My name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace, and I'm glad that you are here. And I've got music.